This one's from Ellie.
Ellie?
Ellie Beltran. Hello, I have another question/topic for your podcast. P.S. Thanks for answering all of my precious questions. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
My question is regarding dog socialization and introductions. From your previous content and common sense, most of the don'ts are pretty obvious. Don't do leashed introductions. Don't have high reward objects around. Treats, toys, affection. Don't unnecessarily insert yourself into the interaction. But what are the do's for dog socialization with the other dogs, particularly when it comes to first introductions? When do you correct for rude behavior towards other dogs? For example, if a dog constantly comes in hot, high, stiff tail, chest, and ears forward, do you correct for that posturing right away? If a dog is playing and it becomes more rough and isn't being reciprocated, do you correct for that behavior so that it does not progress? Side note, this question partially stems from an experience with my own dog a few months ago. I took him on an off-leash walk with my cousin's dog. They were both playing a bit rough and chasing each other back and forth, but the play wasn't reciprocated. I wasn't paying attention for the first few minutes, and my cousin and I heard terrible fight noises, and they were fighting head-to-head. My cousin's dog did not have a scratch on her, but my dog ended up with a ripped ear and a few small punctures around the neck. The dogs had spent time together 6 times prior with no issues, inside hangs, outside hangs and walks, and on and off leash. So a lot of socialization. Neither dog had been in a fight prior or since. My dog had his e-collar on, of course, but the interaction made me wary of play and how it can quickly turn, and made me question when I should intervene to prevent this from happening. Thanks in advance.
Do you know what dog this is?
No, this is not a dog we trained.
Oh.
What do you think? Do's for socialization. When do we insert ourselves? I think that's really the question more than anything.
Yeah.
It's not what are the do's, because it's really about the don'ts.
I
The
think
dogs decide the do's.
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of people get nervous when they see like the posturing and stuff and they want to interrupt it to just stop the dog versus like seeing what is the dog really going to do, because I don't know, I see a lot of dogs that come in hot and they kind of posture a little bit, get real stiff, but that's just how they move initially, and as they start getting more comfortable, they start opening up. When you correct that too quick without really knowing what the dog's going to do, then you're shutting the dog down and they're not going to learn to open up in socialization. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would correct commitment. Oh.
I think we're good. Let me check. Hold on. That happened the other day.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, you can.
Oh.
Can you?
Yeah. You weren't talking in your mic then, I guess. Well,
What's
no,
going on?
Now I can't.
Oh, fuck
Messing
me.
with the thing down.
All right, we're recording again.
It's a weak socket.
Krista hit the headphone jack.
It's a weak
Yeah.
socket.
A weak socket.
All right, socialization. Back to it.
Do I have to restart? Or?
No. We heard everything you said.
Oh, okay. I think if I were to correct, it would just be commitment. But in play, if it's not mutual and the dog is kind of antagonizing the other one and it's not being reciprocated, then I would probably step in and correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So like if one dog's just like really overzealous.
Yeah.
Kinda.
If the other one's being a little too pushy and the other one's definitely not into it or moving away or giving a little snap and the other one's not reading those cues, then I think it is up to us to correct that dog for not reading those cues.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, I have a couple notes here. So first and foremost, it sounds like these dogs had interacted a lot before, but one thing that I've always abided by when I'm introducing a dog to new dogs is keeping it slow and short, right? So I don't know what the context of this was, but I see a lot of people make the mistake of they will get 2 dogs together that may have been together enough times, right? But the dogs are hanging out for the entire time the humans are hanging out, right? It's like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, right? When we're introducing new dogs, I personally try to keep it short, right? I keep it around the 30-minute mark, and I keep it really structured from the standpoint of supervised, ready to address things when started, not running into a situation like you said in this post where, you know, we weren't paying attention and then we heard the fighting sounds. You should never run into that situation, right? Especially if this is a new place you were in with the dogs, right? Because it could have been anything, right? In this scenario, maybe one of the dogs picked up a stick off of the ground and started chewing it and then started resource guarding that stick, right? I don't know. I've seen Deli do that when we first moved in here, right? Where she'd pick up sticks in the yard, she'd start chewing them, and if one of the dogs tried to go over to her, she'd kind of show her teeth at them and stuff, right? So I want to catch any of those things as soon as they start to make sure that it doesn't turn into a problem. Because yes, you could physically not have dog toys and dog treats and stuff like that, but there are things in the environment that the dog will perceive as reinforcing that they will try to guard as well. And you have to be aware of that.
What did you do with Deli? Did you correct
her.
that?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you correct her for taking the stick, or did you correct her for guarding
When
the
she started
stick?
guarding it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did she just stop? She stopped after that?
Yeah, and she kind of stopped playing with the sticks in general,
Yeah.
which I don't really have a problem with.
Yeah.
You can go either way. Like Henry, Brittany's dog, we did a session at the park one time because he would resource guard the fish, the dead fish on the
I
ground.
think she told me that once.
Yeah. Literally, we took him there. And that was his big thing, was like dog aggression issues he had, right? And, in Edgewater Beach, there's dead fish all over it. It's disgusting. He found this big-ass fish and went over and, like, hovered over it, and another dog came up near him, and he full on,
Oh my God.
and I told him no,
Henry.
nailed his ass, like, as high as the e-collar went. He ran away from that fish, and they still tell me Henry has never went near a fish since
Are you
that time.
serious? One time, that's it.
One time, right?
Never
But
again.
again, environmental things that the dog will perceive as reinforcing, that if you're not watching and you don't realize something like that can happen, it can turn into a problem, right? So that's, I don't know exactly what the scenario was, obviously, but you want to keep it slow and short so that you could supervise it as intensely as you need to be, right? Honestly, if the dog is not a member of your immediate household, there should never be a time your eyes are not on them, right? Because they don't have that hierarchy established like my dogs do in the house or your dogs do or whatever it may be, right? They don't have that where one will back down if the other pushes on them or vice versa, right? Because they're constantly in a state of competition. And that's why when you set up play dates, the dogs typically are really intense with each other with the plays because they're still competing. They're still figuring that out, right? The second thing would be understanding the dog, right? So the big thing that was mentioned here was the posturing and stuff like that. And you hit this on the head where most dogs, when they meet other dogs, get stiff and posturing because play is competition, and that's how they do that, right? They do that type of stuff no differently than mounting, no differently than all these other things. The key is not we have to stop that stuff. The key is understanding how far your dog will take it and how the other dog will respond when your dog does those things, right? And we've talked about this numerous times in socialization. I'm not going to stop a dog from doing something like that. That's a social butterfly dog because the other dog is going to respond negatively to it, right? Because the problem is not the dog that's doing it. The problem is the dog that's responding negatively to it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand the dogs you're socializing with. And sometimes you don't know that until you put them in that scenario. And you have to kind of play it out and see what's going to happen and be prepared to address it if it turns into a problem, right? I think 90% of socialization issues, whether with dogs or people, come from us not understanding our dog's social skills, right? So that's another part of it, is understanding your dog's triggers so you know where you have to correct, right? Vinny's a postury dog. Like yesterday, him and Deli were playing, and they do the same thing. They do the chest puffed out, ears forward, quick.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, you know? And that's what they do, right? It's not a problem, right? There are other dogs that when they do that posturiness, it actually is I'm about to attack you, right? And you need to know that sign as well.
Yeah.
The reciprocating thing you kind of hit on with this, right? There are definitely times that I will correct for a dog not responding to cues, right? That Doberman I did the assessment with the other day, right? Super, super, super social dog, right? Year-old Doberman, very, very friendly, very rambunctious, right? Big dog too, right? And I let her out with, it was Queenie and, Queenie, Vera, and one other dog.
Deli. You had
No,
Deli
it wasn't
out.
Deli. Not for this one. I had Deli out with Franklin. When I was doing with Franklin. And same deal. She was playing so hard and just pissing the other dogs off, right? They were all turning around like snapping at her and trying to get her to stop and stuff like that. And she's just like, oh my God, we're around other dogs, right? At one point, I chose to correct for that because she just was pushing so intensely and so hard, and the other dogs were getting so pissed off about it, right? And it wasn't like, I don't think a fight would have broken out, but like it would have it would have resulted in one of those dogs really needing to correct her in order for her to stop, which at that point, like, I'll just do it myself, right? So I would teach dogs how to respond to those cues. And we talked about this the other day with that one question about the multi-dog household, where I'll only do it once the one dog has committedly tried to stop the other dog multiple times and the other dog shows no sign of backing down at all, right? Then I will step in and give a correction after that dog corrects that dog.
Out of curiosity, like on that of like us teaching dogs to respond to the other dog's cues, do you think that any timing has to be in play with that for the dog to really understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to come.
Dog
you're conditioning
snaps.
it in. Yeah. Dog snaps. Dog doesn't respond. We correct.
Yeah.
Right? So we start conditioning in after this dog snaps. If you don't stop, we're going to correct you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally classically conditioning that cue.
Yeah.
Then the next one would be dogs just getting annoying in general, right? So I talk a lot about letting things really slide, right? I'm pretty loose about that kind of stuff. I want the dogs, for the most part, to figure it out.
Sorry.
That being said, there are times that I correct my dogs for playing with each other because it's annoying me, right? When they're in the house and roughhousing and we're trying to chill out and watch a movie or eat or cook or whatever it may be, they just need to stop, right?
But do you sometimes let them do that? Or is it, hey, when we're chilling out,
I try to keep it black and white of no roughhousing in the house. So that it's a little bit more fair if I correct for it. And then if it's outside, outside I tend to keep it, you could be as high energy as you want out there. I don't particularly care. I'll typically use a command or something to stop them.
Do they interact in the house that much? Not
really. Yesterday was honestly the first time in a long time. Like I said, like Deli and Vinny started playing. I'm like, what are you guys doing? So sometimes when they're getting annoying, it's not wrong to give a correction for it if you want them to stop. And I think that helps them learn. This is a conversation of like using obedience versus just correcting for it. I think that it helps them learn a little bit of a cutoff cue for it, where like once it hits this point, I'm going to correct you. Where once they start hitting that point, they kind of start checking in, as opposed to needing to be like kind of managed with the obedience commands and stuff. And then the last part of it kind of goes with that is when I'm socializing dogs with other dogs in general, I will occasionally test the dogs to see how in tune with me they are, right? I talk about this a lot when I'm socializing dogs. I'm okay with play getting real wild with the assumption that if I need to, I could stop it on a dime, right? So in order to do that, I need to make sure that I have their attention still. So sometimes when they're roughhousing and stuff like that, I'll say something, whether it's a name or I'll give a command or something. And then if I don't get an immediate response to that, I'll just give a correction, right? And I start teaching them that my verbal cues need to be paid attention to at all times, right? So that's something else you could do that also helps to keep the dogs with one ear turned to you, where you're not going to run into as many situations like that, right? So those are kind of my do's, I guess, as far as socialization of where I will intervene and how I will intervene.
Okay.
I think that's good.
Follow-up points?
No, but I guess for like owners that don't have any tools on their dog, how are you suggesting for them to create that? You can't really.
It's very difficult to.
Yeah.
You're kind of leaving. This is what you're doing when you do that.
Yeah.
Literally.
Fingers crossed.
Please don't get into it with each other, right? You can keep a leash on the dog in case you need to go over and grab it or something like that, But you have to have some sort of communication.
Yeah.
You just have, you know what I mean? Like
spray bottle with water.
Seriously, that's a spray bottle.
Just get the hose.
We used to use a lot of those. They're effective with some dogs for sure.
Rocks in a
little
bottle.
dart gun.
Pennies
like
in a jar or whatever, pennies in a bottle. So something to interrupt the dogs. But again, you need to get into then the understanding of how do I apply a consequence for something? How do I punish a behavior? Things like that. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but no matter what, those are even training things, right?
Yeah.
They require an understanding of training to use. You could shake your jar of rocks all day long, but if it's not clear what it's for, spark!
No, she just lets them fight it out.
I do. Yeah. I let a lot of things go between my dogs just to see how it plays out. And it always just one backs down and I don't have to step in. And
It's like a little
because
war
they have that
zone.
relationship
Yeah.
established with you. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference between dogs living in the same house and you socializing your dog with outside dogs. You know? Do you ever get your dogs with other dogs? Do you have like friends that have dogs or anything?
My
Doof.
friends, Duke comes over. My friends do have dogs that when they visit, they'll bring their dog, and they'll just play, and everything works out.
Well, her mom's dog Benny. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that dog that you
Sure do.
He's over
here
there.
now,
Nice.
yeah. And he keeps going after Toonie, and I was just like, "Mom, you're gonna put an e-collar on this dog because he keeps just Toonie's doing nothing, and
Didn't
keeps
he
just
tried to
going
bite
after-
Doof too, I think.
Yes, he tries to bite everybody.
Dang.
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 Who's the alpha small dog?
Toonie.
Nelson.
Nelson?
Nelson is the king of the house. He rules everything. And then I would say Minnow, Spork.
No, you're just choosing favorites. You don't think Toonie runs your house?
Toonie's corrects the dogs a lot, but she's kind of like senile, so it's like,
What is she really doing?
yeah.
It's like the grandpa that sits in the chair
Yeah.
sleeping and every now and then gets up like, what are you guys doing?
That's Toonie.
That's,
And I'd say
Wow.
Bottom.
Then
Bottom
falls
is-
right back asleep.
yeah.
Star is the Star or Sunday or Bottom dog.
Yeah.
Bottom tier.
They're too chill.
Good stuff. Right. Any last notes on that question?
Oh, no.
I think that's all of them.